Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In the interest of time, I want to go ahead and get started. Please continue to eat there and enjoy the fellowship. My name is James Sheridan. I'm the current chair of the Tyler Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. It's my honor and privilege to be here with you today as your host. I'm going to go ahead and just get it out of the way and ask for your grace. I have not practiced my talking points that much, but I have over and over practiced saying Tyler instead of Tyler. So if I revert to Tyler, please give me some grace on that, all right? So at this time, we'd like to recognize our title sponsor, Ultra Federal Credit Union, and we have a short video for you at this time.
I love Ultra Goes Back Day. It's one of my favorite days out of the year.
I think this is just one of those examples of everybody building a community together, getting to volunteer with a group of employees that you don't always see very often, and getting to know them and helping out some of the different community events is awesome.
I'm really proud to work for a company that organizes opportunities like this to give back to the community.
Thank you to Ultra Federal Credit Union for your commitment to our community, and thank you for supporting this event. Without you, this would not be possible. At this time, I'd like Cody Abels to make his way forward, and he will give our invocation. Cody?
Will you pray with me, please? Heavenly Father, we're so thankful that you created an avenue of prayer where we can speak to you whenever we want. So thank you for how you've blessed us and petition you for you to help us and guide us. Please help us to never take that for granted. Today we are thankful for our leaders at our local school districts here in East Texas, for Mr. Surratt at Lindale ISD, for Mr. Dean at Chapel Hill ISD, for Mr. Bitter at Carthage ISD, for Dr. Crawford and our hometown school district of Tyler ISD, and all the other ISDs, Father, in our area. Please grant them with wisdom as they lead their districts. Help them to show your light to our communities with their actions and the decisions that they make every day. I pray that they are a good example to their staff and students and do everything for your glory. Father, thank you for the staff at these districts and their love for their students. Help their students feel and see your love by the love that is shown to them. Father, I pray for protection at our schools, protection from physical harm, spiritual harm, and emotional harm. Father, I ask for your blessing on Christian students in our district. Help them to be bold when living out their faith and effectively share the good news of salvation through Jesus Christ with love to everyone they come in contact with. I ask that you raise up a generation of people who represent you the way we are called to live and worship you in spirit and truth with love. Thank you for blessing us with a nation that allows us to talk about you and worship you without fear. Please continue to bless our country with peace, prosperity, and unity with love for each other. Most importantly, thank you for sending your only Son, Jesus, to die for us so that we can have an opportunity to live with you. Please forgive us when we fail you and fall short of the person we're supposed to be. We ask all these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Well done. Thank you, Cody. All right. At this time, I would like to recognize our elected officials in attendance. As I call your name, if you'll please stand, wave, somehow let us know you're here. And then once everyone has been announced, we will we will recognize them and appreciate them collectively with applause. Whoop whoops are allowed, but just hold the applause to the end, all right? All right, starting off with Tyler City Council, Mr. James Wynn. Next, whoop whoop, there you go. Are y'all Aggies? No, just kidding. All right, next we have Tyler City Council, Mr. Lloyd Nichols. Lloyd's here, all right, whoop whoop. All right, for Smith County, we have Smith County Judge Neil Franklin. Yes. We have Commissioner John Moore. Is John in the house? I didn't see him. Okay. We have Commissioner Pam Frederick. There you go. Commissioner Ralph Caraway. We also have, I shouldn't have done that. We also have Tyler Junior College trustee, Mr. David Hudson. There you go. And then we also have, I believe, Smith County Republican Party Chair, Mr. David Stein. There he is. All right, did I miss anyone? I hate to miss. All right, with that, let's give them all a round of applause. All right. I think you're going to be in for a treat today. Many of you have come to our annual State of the District luncheon. Dr. Crawford has something a little different in mind, and I think you're going to enjoy that. But as he makes his way to the stage, I would like to give a little personal testimonial on Tyler ISD. The other day, I watched a clip from the great football coach, Nick Saban, and as I was in the run-up for this, it just stuck out to me what he said when I was thinking about Tyler ISD and how that connected. Nick Saban said, we all have 5 basic choices on how we want to approach things. We can be bad, average, good, excellent, or elite. And to be elite or excellent, we have to have intensity, focus, drive, passion, and commitment. And when I reviewed that clip and I thought about TISD and I look at the progress that's been made, I thought about Superintendent Crawford, I thought about our school board, our Tyler ISD administrators, our teachers, all the other staff and students, and I would dare say that I believe, and I am a product of Tyler ISD, so I'm obviously biased, I do believe we have an excellent school district, or perhaps elite, dare I say. Yes, you can whoop whoop or clap for that, or both. All right. Now, I also was struck by the fact that we just have excellent educational facilities across the board in our community, and I'm very thankful for that. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, he's the Nick Saban of public education. He's the head of Tyler ISD administration and a faithful member of the Baylor Bear Nation. Please welcome our very own Dr. Marty Crawford.
You know, Coach Saban was recruiting one of our student athletes from Legacy a few years ago, and he needed a place to land for about 5 minutes, and they brought him over to the office. And of course, I offered, Mr. Bitter, you were there that night, and I offered him a Coke, a Diet Coke, or a Dasani water, because I told him, I said, Coach Saban, just like Alabama, we are a Coke school. And he chose the Dasani water. Well, during that 20 minutes he was there, he offered a master's class on leadership, didn't talk any football at all. It was incredible, a memory that I'll never forget. But as he kept drinking off that water bottle, he'd keep putting that cap back on his Dasani water. And I was like going, I need to get that water bottle. And he kept drinking that water, and finally when he walked out, he kept the water bottle, but he left that cap on a coffee table. And so when he walked out, I went and grabbed that cap, and I've still got that right next to my Earl Campbell signed football. So I don't know about Nick Saban, but he was in my office at one time. We're excited about being here today to share a little bit of different perspective with y'all, not just on Tyler ISD and the TISD, not Troop, not Tenaha, not Temple, but Tyler ISD like we normally do. To bring some of our friends from Lindale, Carthage, and Chapel Hill alongside us, to give them some perspectives, to maybe give you a little bit of a different snapshot about what's going on out there in public education across East Texas, and further proving that we're not a bunch of wasps, whining, annoying school people. For some of those that represent us in the room, whether you're at the senator's office or maybe the representative's office, You sometimes replace that A with a word that I am not going to say here at Green Acres. But certainly today, I think you'll see that there are some winning, amazing school people that will grace us here today. You'll see some leadership styles that you don't typically get here in Tyler, or maybe you see in Tyler a lot as well. We do have some others that we'll introduce here shortly, but we've got a couple other orders of business that we traditionally do in these at this event, and that is our Community Partner of the Year along with our Distinguished Alum of the Year. So let's get on with that. Our Community Partner of the Year award are Terry and Rose Giles. They exemplify dedication to Tyler ISD and our community as owners of Dairy Queen in Tyler. I'm supposed to do this, right, James? Okay. Since 1980, the Giles family has contributed thousands of dollars to this school system, your hometown school district, through recently the Success Partner Program. Their support goes beyond donations with yearly involvement in the 12 Days of Deals holiday promotion for staff and countless mini blizzards and Sunday cards for students on the honor roll across all Tyler ISD campuses. Whether through free cone coupons for event giveaways or last-minute contributions, Terry and Rose are always at the ready to uplift our Tyler ISD students. Their roots run deep in Tyler. Both moved to the city after marriage and have been actively involved in this community ever since. Their two sons attended Andy Woods Elementary, Hubbard Middle School, and Robert E. Lee High School, and their grandchildren currently attend Andy Woods Elementary. Rose, who taught for 6 years at Bonner and 20 years at Woods, remains a beloved figure throughout our school system. The Giles family, along with their adored dog Lucy, are well known in their neighborhood, reflecting the genuine commitment that they bring to every effort in voicing their support for Tyler ISD. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Giles family up here, Terry and Rose Giles. We'll do it over there. Yeah.
I feel that I need to say this because Mr. Nichols is in the room today, but anyway, half of this honor needs to go to my business partner, Daryl Forster, who is in the midst of having a colonoscopy today. Anyway, absolutely. But anyway, I just want to thank you for this opportunity, and it's truly an honor to be given this. And Rose, I don't know, one thing I wanted to share with you about her is with all of her years of teaching, one of the blessings that she got is she got to teach our oldest son in first grade, and that was a pretty rewarding experience for both of them, I think. Maybe more for Rose than Jordan. But anyway, thank you so much, and just, I don't know, I'm at a loss for words at this time. It's time to sit down. Thank you.
You never know what you're going to hear at the State of the District. Poor guy. I don't think that's a HIPAA violation. Let's get on with our distinguished alumni. Every year, this award is given to a Tyler ISD graduate whose achievements, strengths of character, and citizenship serve as a model to inspire and challenge current students in the leadership of our community. Award finalists have achieved excellence and made impactful and significant contributions to their profession and the Tyler community. This year, our honoree is Judge Neil Franklin. Okay, there you go. Y'all know everything about Judge Franklin. Through his years of trying to run for office, I'm sure he's given you his professional resume, everything from fire chief and emergency management coordinator for the city of Tyler, general manager for ETMC, EMS, et cetera. He's done some training for Core Insights in the past as well. He was born and raised here in Tyler, where he attended Clarkston, Moore, and Robert E. Lee High School, graduating in 1979. Neil's father was beloved and served as principal at Hogg Middle School for quite a while. Judge Franklin graduated from Stephen F. Austin State University in 1984. He and his wife, Valley, have been married for 37 years with 3 children and 2 grandchildren. They reside in Smith County, in another town, whose name shall not be mentioned, where they enjoy golf and spending time with their family and friends. They are members of Emerald Bay Community Church. You can probably tell where his mailing address is by that. He is committed to helping the Smith County region become an even greater place to live, and I truly believe that. To live, work, worship, have fun, and raise a family. He firmly believes in the power of public service to affect positive change in our communities. It is in his passion to serve and improve the lives of the citizens and employees of Smith County, and he just got through cutting the ribbon for 500 plus new parking spaces in downtown Tyler, Texas. With a new courthouse coming up soon, let's welcome our Distinguished Alum of the Year, Judge Neil Franklin.
I've got a few things to say. All right. First, let me say that I am humbled and honored for this recognition today. I'm also very, very thankful that I'm not scheduled for a colonoscopy. I'm usually very comfortable speaking in front of a group, but this is kind of awkward when you're being recognized. I would much rather be recognizing others, but I do want to share my sincere gratitude to all involved. That's my amazing Smith County family, and there's several here. Of course, my lovely wife, Valley, who is here. Yay. I know it was mentioned, I went to Clarkston, Moore, and Lee, now Legacy. Times have changed a lot since then. I have so many special memories of teachers, coaches, principals, staff, the encouragement that I received to push myself during the early years helped develop my self-confidence, which has proven pivotal throughout my career. My older brother, Jay, my sister, Amy, and I all graduated from Tyler ISD. Those of you that know all 3 of us Franklin kids would have lost money in a wager today on who's receiving this award. If you did choose me and you bet on me, you made some money because I'm the long shot horse, I promise you. As was Dr. Crawford said, my mother and father both worked for TISD. My mother was a school nurse and my dad was the principal at Hogg Junior High then. My mother and father breathed Tyler ISD. This recognition means even more to me due to that love that my parents had for the district. I've got a strong feeling that they're embracing and celebrating right this very minute. So thank you again for my education and the special recognition today. I thank God for allowing me to grow up in such an awesome community with so many positive influences along the way. And the icing on the cake is that God has blessed me with a position that allows me the opportunity to serve each of you. Now I'd like to turn the tables and thank Dr. Crawford and the Tyler ISD board members for the amazing job they do. Thank you to the administration, the teachers, and staff at all of the schools. I am proud to say that I attended Tyler ISD, our hometown district. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Man, we've got great people in East Texas. You've seen a few of them here today with Judge Franklin and certainly with the Giles family. Cody, thank you for your prayer today. It was a good Church of Christ prayer, and I can validate that because I grew up deep East Texas Church of Christ, right there in Carthage, Texas. But certainly, we've just got a lot of godly people here that are truly making an impact on us as well. We've got some of those folks in the audience as well. These WASPs that I first identified here before we started. And some of those sit on school boards or work in central office districts. Let's hold our applause until everything's done. No whoops or anything like that. But with our Tyler ISD board, and I appreciate y'all referring to Tyler ISD as Tyler ISD. Y'all know that grates me when it's just TISD, because whenever you say TISD, you kind of crinkle your nose up here. TISD. You can't do that when you say Tyler ISD, right, James? Here we go. Tyler ISD Board of Trustees, Wade Washman, Yvonne Atkins, Andy Bergfeld, Aaron Martinez, Artis Newsom, Cody Leveretts. Others from Tyler ISD today, Ron Jones, Dr. Lance Gropel, Jennifer Hines, Jeff Millslagle, Dusty Walsworth, Gina Orr. Our lawyers are even here today, Hardy and Hardy. Don't call them. If you've got an issue, start at the superintendent's office first, because they're waiting for y'all to call them. As soon as you call them, they go, billable hours. Right there. So if you've got an issue, and if I need you to talk to them, I'll send you over there, but usually I can handle it. With Carthage ISD, we have the Carthage ISD Board Secretary, Mary Ella Sherman. We have Carthage ISD Deputy Superintendent, Tim Rokey. We also have others from Carthage, and that's Panola County Chamber of Commerce Executive Director, Carrie Perot Vance. Carrie, I've heard good things about you. Glad that y'all have joined the East Texas delegation with our chamber. This is a chamber event for us, and glad to have you here today. And then, man, the dad of one of the better high school football players I've ever seen. He's got a pretty long resume. Along with being the former District 9 state representative and a 1996 Dixie League All-Star teammate of mine, Chris Patty. Right there. Thanks, Chris, for being here. Oh, he got claps. There you go. All right, there you go. We have others from Carthage here today. Chapel Hill is here today as well. We have Chapel Hill ISD board member, Dr. Amy Hayes. Thank you, Dr. Hayes, for being here. We have other staff here. Executive Director, Dr. Joshua Tremont. Executive Director, Deidre Sutton. Director of Communications, Alyssa Thompson. Chapel Hill Junior High and Chapel Hill High School Principal, Ashley Lloyd and Reginald McGowan, respectively. Wise Elementary School, Catherine Wimberly, former Tyler ISD person. So is Coach McGowan there as well. Along with Lindale ISD Deputy Superintendent Jamie Holder. Hey, Jamie. Glad to have you here, Doc. Federal Programs Director Christy Klaus. Curriculum Director Kayla DeSlat. Did I get it right? DeLott. Curriculum Director Tracy Rand. Connie Forsyth. Principal David French, a principal. And then Jeremy Chillick, high school principal over at Lindale. These folks that I just listed represent a nice sample of the type of people that y'all have governing and leading your school systems. And I think after our conversation today, you're going to find out that the broad brush painting that you hear from the mainstream media or maybe even social media, it doesn't apply here to East Texas. So when you hear things coming out of Austin or out of D.C., I think you can feel rest assured that you've got leadership that's being done in a morally conservative and an ethical and a fiscally conservative manner. That's what the purpose of having these folks up here today is. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and invite the superintendents of Chapel Hill, Carthage, and Lindale up to the stage so that we can conduct our panel. And as they're walking up here, let's give a round of applause for those individuals I just announced. two guys can get the blue ones. There you go. Well, joining me up here today, as we said, are Lindale ISD Superintendent Stan Musial-Surratt. Seriously, that's his Stan the man. That's his middle name. We have state champion from Chapel Hill ISD, Superintendent Lamont Dean, and then y'all know Bitter over there. He's a Tyler ISD boy that played a little bit of baseball as well. So we're going to start off a little bit, give a 30-second shout out, hello to everyone before we get on with our questioning. We're going to start with you, Lamont.
All right. Well, hey, again, Lamont Dean, Chapel Hill ISD. I'm thankful to be here. Love all the smiling faces. I would have a joke, but it would last longer than 30 seconds, so I'm going to pass on that. But we're honored, and thank you for having Chapel Hill ISD here.
I'm Stan Surratt, proud superintendent of Lindale ISD, and I want to recognize one of our board members over here, Daniel Delott, and he's recently elected to the board, and we're proud to have him here today. He was at a different table, so we didn't recognize him, but just proud to be here. I'm so proud, Lindale, we're so proud to be neighbors of the Tyler area and Tyler ISD, and we work so well together, and I know Tyler has got a lot to be proud of with their school district, but just very glad to be here today.
Jared Bitter, Carthage ISD, again, would echo that, just the thanks for the opportunity to be here in the room today, and hope that you hear some of what Dr. Crawford talked about with the pride of the people that sit up here and the way that we do things and the way that we represent you, the way that we operate inside of our school buildings, and that reflects just the strong community standards that we have here in this room today. So looking forward to the discussion.
Well, good deal. Man, what a time it's been to be in public schools. I kind of alluded to some of that up there about how the media, some of the media, obviously the local media does their job and reports the facts, and we have a great relationship with them. But how that kind of trickles down to influencing what is seen, what comes out of Austin, what is kind of seen and portrayed through social media. And I know that they always think that we're just incredibly how well funded we are. Taxes, obviously, in conservative East Texas is a big deal, and we certainly appreciate that. But there are some challenges as we kind of compete with the current economy's economic issues that we've got going on right now. So let's just talk about the funding of public schools right now. First of all, let's talk about the inflation gap. High-level view, over the past few years, Texas school districts have faced increasing financial challenges, including a widening gap in public funding and due to inflation. Mr. Surratt, an overview of how inflation has affected your district's ability to cover basic costs and what specific funding needs are emerging as that result.
Well, I think everybody in this room understands that we've had a great deal of inflation over the last few years, but apparently the governor did not understand the inflation impact on schools because, and of course, everything costs extra, the insurance for our buildings, for our buses, fuel for our buses, food costs is way up. So everybody understands everything costs more, but in the last session, we didn't get any extra money. While the state of Texas had a surplus, a record surplus more than ever before. We're talking $30 billion extra dollars. And at that time, with that amount of inflation, the pressure that schools are under, for the governor to deny needed funds to school district teachers and children is a shame. And so we all understand what inflation has done, not only to school district, but every individual family, every teacher, every administrator, every employee at the school district. So to deny those funds, I mean, it's really should be almost criminal. And so I'm hopeful. I'm hoping that the legislation. I know we've got great legislators out there, and they want to help school districts. And I hope this time we get the needed fund, because we saw the news just recently. One of the local school systems in Smith County had to lay off 50 plus people. Okay, we are all feeling that, and if we do not get some additional funding, other school districts are going to have similar situations where laying people off, reducing programs, reducing service to children, and that's where we're at. It is extremely tight, It's impacting all the school districts across the state of Texas, and we just got to have some help from the state of Texas.
Yeah, we'll get into this next point. We just got our fiscal report card this last week or so, and I know at least Tyler ISD that we're maxed out on our administrative cost on scoring points to get an A rating out of that. In other words, the state says that we are 2 or 3 standard deviations under what districts that look like us are spending on administrative costs. You may think that, well, they just need to go back and cut more people out of central office. Man, we have done that, and the state's financial integrity rating system rewards that to us. So Stan's talking is exactly right. You can only cut so much before you start getting into the classroom, and I think that's something that's completely on the horizon. Mr. Dean, there's figures out there that say that the state provides school districts, let's just say not the state, taxpayers send money to the state, and then the state distributes money out to the school districts at the tune of almost $16,000 per student. But that's a pretty misleading number. Can you explain how they get to that $16,000, or really what the number is?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of a school finance lesson, and this is really, really easy, and this is how I like to explain it to those who don't know. So we, as our local school districts, there's 2 pots of money that we basically derive our school funding from. One is local property taxes, whether it be from businesses or homes, and the others are state taxes or state reserve revenue. So imagine that you have your glass of water or tea that you have on your table, and the local property taxes that are paid into a local school system starts to fill up your cup with water or resources, if you will. So if you look at your cup and it's probably halfway full, every school district's cup is different size and it's filled at a different rate. The state comes in behind that with their big picture and they top you off, right? And so some school districts need 50% topping off. Some may need 20% topping off. Does that make sense? So in my big picture of the state has, as Mr. Surratt spoke about, there is leftover liquids or fluid or water in the big picture. That's where they get the extra $30+ billion that they get to keep, okay? Now, mind you, they're going to give you the rhetoric in the local social media that, hey, we fund schools at a clip of, as Dr. Crawford spoke of, $16,000. Well, we wish that it was $16,000. We wish that it was half of that, because the basic allotment that they give is $6,160. That's the basic allotment that they provide for all school districts. Now, they may embellish that number by telling you that we are going to give allotments of funds and resources. For example, that fictitious number may be embellished because there is an allotment for students who need dyslexia services. My children are both students of dyslexia, and they receive additional service to help them close the gaps. And so they may sprinkle a little bit more money for dyslexia service. And I did mention sprinkle a little bit of money for dyslexia service. Students who are also under the special ed umbrella, whether it needs speech supports or any other supports, and they'll sprinkle in a little bit of extra money for that. Students who are gifted and talented, they'll sprinkle in a little bit of money for that, and I can go on and on and on. Now, as they look at a one identified student that may have all those allotments that may apply to them, they can derive a number of 16,000. But as you can easily see, not every child has all those needs, so every student is not receiving all those funds. So if you are hearing in the world of social media that, and we supply a vast amount of resources to our school system, that is simply a bold-faced, let's say, untruth, since I'm in the church building.
Mr. Dean, thank you. Well, part of that funding equation, some of the air that's being being sucked out of the room does have to do with vouchers and school choice. And y'all have heard me say this before, that in Smith County, we play well in the sandbox with our charter and our private school and even our homeschool partners. Let's call it that, because we share kids all the time. We share staff all the time. We share parents all the time. They kind of hop back and forth. So East Texas is truly an anomaly up against some of the things that you hear out there. But you'd think, because we had a recent visit by one of the proponents of such vouchers here to a micro private school in East Texas, that you'd think that this was the epicenter of it. A couple of visits to East Texas, but certainly vouchers are a big deal. And when you start talking about accountability, Mr. Dean, many districts feel they're at a disadvantage compared to private schools, especially where funding is considered. But what would it take to create a level playing field once we finally have vouchers embedded into how Texas educates its kids?
You know, as we evaluate in our local conversations, we've had lots of detailed discussions about what would it take to level the playing field. So let me give you some real numbers that are floating and have been floating since the last session. So as I mentioned to you just a moment ago, $6,160 is what the basic allotment is. That does not include all the what we call unfunded mandates in that number. There are things that we are responsible for with resources that are provided us by being a public school system and receiving tax dollars. One of those, which we are proud to do, is to provide high quality safety for our students. So every one of our campuses, I can almost speak for all of my colleagues to identify, we have a school resource officer or police officer at each of our schools. Well, and the state will tell you, well, we sent them some security money, and they did. And you remember when I told you about the sprinkle? It's just a little bit of extra. So they gave us a little bit of extra money, but gave us a mandate that every campus has to have supports on that campus. That's something we're proud to do, but an additional amount of resources would help that. In addition to that, as we look for things that our counterparts may not have, as I mentioned, the $6,160, the voucher number that has been floating is a number of $10,000 per student. So we would identify how can we bring equitability and accountability to what the system may entail. It is truly just to fund students the same. I would garner to assume that those of you like myself who have multiple children, I have 3. And although I want to treat them differently depending on what day it is, I truly don't. I feed them all. I give them a place I let them use the same soap. So I don't discriminate between my children. In this case, we feel like there's some discrimination with the fact of funding and resources, because all of our children in all of our school districts are our responsibility, and we want to make sure that we can give them the highest quality education that we expect from the state. In addition to that, the mandates that are afforded to public schools in the state of Texas are not the same mandates that are required from others. And so when we talk about how can we bring accountability or equal connection to everyone, is that we just wanted to be transparent and accountable. We want the same responsibilities for everybody who received public dollars should have the same level of accountability, and that's how we feel like we can solve this problem.
So when vouchers come into play, Mr. Bitter, logistically speaking, Carthage ISD, or your knowledge of just general operations in the state, you've worked in Tyler ISD before. What are some other logistical and financial barriers that maybe we have in public education, whether it be instructional, whether it be educational, whether it be how we serve, the children that we serve, and what are some of the things that you think that are not being considered when you start talking about vouchers?
Well, I think, Dr. Crawford, when you start talking about vouchers, I think you open up a huge, it's just a huge category. The issues inside of that, when you talk about accountability, when you talk about funding that goes along with those things, I think just in starting, I think the last legislative session, that number was about $500 million or so that was allocated for education savings accounts, school choice. Obviously never moved through from the legislative process, but you take from there, I think 8% of that was allocated for logistical management of some of those resources. Who's going to make sure that these dollars are going to appropriate educational entities, goods, resources, services being provided to some of these kids? And so pretty quickly off the top, you get $40 million. And what we know about that money is even if we end up with our kids in a place that might be right for them through the voucher system, that's $40 million that never sees a classroom, never sees a teacher or a kid, provides any sort of benefit there. I think one of the things that we all talk about is accountability. We know that there are a lot of even competing entities out there when you talk about the federal government, the state government, the folks that we are first and foremost accountable to, and that's our local school boards and constituents. And so trying to balance all three of those things, very, very difficult, certainly when you're strapped for funding. You know, Mr. Surratt mentioned that funding gap in there, and when we go back and look at inflation, there's 5.2 million school kids in the state of Texas, public school kids in the state of Texas. So if we adjust every one of those $1,000 or $1,200 for inflation, you're talking about $5 to $6.5 billion coming out of that surplus. So about a quarter of that surplus just going to get us back to even, just to break even. And I do think that there's going to be at some point probably some relief in there where some folks give themselves a big pat on the back for providing some of that. But I think when we're talking about having to make decisions about whether or not to provide or deny essential services to our kids, faced with what we are in public education, the growing needs of our kids, it's just very, very difficult for local school districts to be able to fight that battle. Whereas on the voucher side of it, a private school, if we've got to provide a few more services, we'll just raise tuition a little bit. It doesn't mean that they won't provide a quality education through that, but there are some measures in there available to them that are not available to us. We don't get to raise that cost or request more dollars from the state through that. So just different systems, I think, can be some good outcomes in both of those things, and you don't have to crush one to support another. But I think a lot of battles being fought in there to try to make sure that public dollars stay in our public schools.
Well said. Just some thoughts that rang off the top of my head. Chapter 37 deals with school safety, and also deals with discipline. Not pretty sure that the private school is not going to have to mess with that. You act up in a private school, you're gone. Public schools, you got to figure out another way to win with kids because of free and appropriate education. There's that's going to go on. One concern, and I've been saying this since inception of this conversation, is what are we going to do about these pop-ups that come up that call themselves private schools that are subprime? I mean, we've got some really good private schools in Smith County. Let's be honest about that. Brook Hill does a good job. Grace does a good job. TK Gorman does a good job. All Saints does a good job. We'll go ahead and just go down the list. I'm going to leave somebody out, so I apologize for that. But I went with the four big ones. JB used to work for TK Gorman. But in saying that, you got to worry about the subprimes that are going to pop up. There's going to be some grifting going on. There's already grifting going on right now. At least they're setting up for that, and that is a concern for us as we go forward, as it relates to accountability and all things being fair. One thing they do say that they do have to take the Iowa test of basic skills, I think, in private schools, but they get a choice to do that. And I think that us being kind of constrained to just the STAR test, where there's a lot of tweaking that goes on prior to those results ever coming out, is a concern of ours. So that's something we can talk about here later on in this conversation. Speaking of, we had an election last Tuesday, and we've already getting some rhetoric coming out of Washington, D.C. about shutting down the Department of Education. I'll be honest with you, the four of us up here, as long as I've been the superintendent or administrator, may not be a bad idea. Probably is a good idea, right? My request to the administration was, if we're going to do it at the federal level, can we go ahead and get down to the state agencies and maybe close theirs down too? But I have not been answered yet on that request. And I say that tongue-in-cheek. There are good people at TEA, but we are living in a really uncertain environment. We've got this flanking going on in regard to the voucher situation, but we've also got some issues inside of our own state's education system with the assessment and accountability. Mr. Surratt, I'm going to let you take the TEA question. They've faced some criticism and lawsuits for not altering the accountability system, maybe not meeting some deadlines. After the school year was already underway, share how these sudden changes affect school districts and what we need to do about it.
Well, as probably a lot of you noticed, the A through F ratings did not come out the last 2 years, and that's because there was a lawsuit. And basically the lawsuit, and I didn't really understand it. We were asked to be part of it, and since I couldn't understand it, I didn't recommend us be part of it. But I didn't really, so I asked the commissioner point blank. I said, why are these schools suing you, the commissioner in the state of Texas? And he wouldn't answer it because he was in a lawsuit. But the reason was is because TEA did not follow their own timeline. Okay, so they're changing the rules after the test is given and before their accountability ratings are given. That's not fair. It's not fair to public schools. And of course, this was a change. You know, every 5 years they want to up the standards so schools keep improving, which is not a bad idea, and we're for that. But for them to change the rules after the test is given, and some of the data they're using is more than a year old, and they're making those changes, especially on CCMR stuff at the high school. It's just not fair. And of course, you know, we're not a big fan of the A through F, and you know, one of the biggest reasons is what's the difference between an A and a B? What's the difference between a 90 and an 89? Well, there's no difference between a 90 and 89, but it's a huge difference to that community. It's a huge difference for our teachers and staff. You know, our teachers, everybody wants to be an A. They want to be awesome and excellent. Okay, they don't want to be a B. They don't want to be, just par. But anyway, so there's some real flaws in the A through F, you know, and for whatever reason, politicians in the past changed that where we used or recognized and implemented words like that because apparently the legislators thought Texans wasn't smart enough to understand what those words meant. And so we had to have the A through F, and it was going to make a drastic changes in our school. But it really hasn't, okay? But it's hurt and damaged some schools, and it's hurt some communities. This year, if it would have come out, the A through F would have come out, I got 2 elementaries, and we call them mirror elementaries because we split them 50-50 down the middle, try to make them equal. We don't do it by zoning. One was a 90 and one was an 89. And you couldn't guess which one was which until I told you. But that would have had a huge impact in my district. Okay, it would have affected my district. So it's unfair to school districts, that rating. And again, it's still based on a few tests throughout the year. Our school districts do so much more. We don't get credit for a lot we do. The special programs we have to, the fine art, the extracurricular, UIO accountability, academics, all those stuff that we offer. And we offer more than any of the private schools, much more programs, but we don't get credit for that. But we get that single letter grade, and it's certainly unfair to us. And of course, that resulted in a lawsuit because the TEA wasn't following their own guidelines and rules. And so fair. I look forward for the next time we can give A through F ratings, and all of us will brag about them. So,
you know, I've always appreciated Mr. Surratt when you start talking about accountability because Lindale, high performance school system, but he's also been a champion for everyone that sometimes struggles. Lindale's demographics look a little differently than others, and we certainly all want to make sure that a zip code does not determine the child's educational achievement, and that's what we all work towards. But we all know the makeup of East Texas, and being compared right down the road to a district that is consistently A-rated versus one that struggles to be a B, when we tweak it, it knocks us all the way down to a C, right? Usually it's a 10-point dip every time they tweak it, it feels like, and then we try to catch back up. And when we catch back up, what do they do again? They knock it back again. So there's a lot of things that are baked into this accountability system and assessment system that make it difficult.
Let me just point this other deal. And this is a major flaw of the A through F system. And I think Tyler is an example of this. So if would have come out the first year, last year, would have come out, Tyler ISD did better than the year before, but their rating was going down. That should never, ever happen with the accountability system at Texas. Tyler ISD did better than the year before, but their rating was going down. Sends false messages to the community, our parents, and that should not happen with an accountability system in Texas.
Appreciate your advocacy there, sir. It comes from me, nobody believes it. It's tough. And I'll be honestly, I don't know if TEA's down there rubbing their hands together to try to make this happen to us. I just think that there is a lot of time and effort and energy spent tweaking whenever you feel like that a test on one day is going to drive the feelings about whether or not your child's being successful or not.
in their educational experiences. And I think that's a pretty difficult challenge as we go forward. Teacher shortages. There's the great teacher exodus post-COVID is upon us, allegedly. Even though we're all doing fairly well of filling positions, we do have something, there's a bubble that's going to burst. A lot of it's got to do with some of the funding issues that we've talked about. Let's talk about the teacher shortage. Mr. Dean, Mr. Bitter, you can chime in after he's done, but finding those teachers, they created the teacher incentive allotment, which is merit-based pay, which is great. We'll take advantage of it where we can. They also put together a teacher task force that looked at other things about creating more. UT Tyler's here in the room today, TJC's here, about developing more teachers. Anything that you'd like to add to that, talking about teacher development and attracting folks into the profession?
You know, I think you hit a very key point about attracting people into the profession. I happen to believe that educators are the greatest profession ever known to men and women.
A little biased.
And you guys should agree with that because you have been educated by educators, so you should agree with that. But, you know, one of the things that the national narrative that has hindered us in ensuring that we have high quality educators wanting to join the profession is simply false. There are one of the biggest entities that we have is funding. We go back to that resource. We definitely want to pay our teachers what they're worth. And man, I tell you what, they're worth a king's ransom. But when the state hinders us, as Mr. Surratt spoke about a little bit earlier, we have not received money in the last 2 years, additional raise. Think about that. If you're in your house and you know the eggs prices has gone up and you know that the gas prices have gone up and just the cost of living just through inflation has gone up. And in your profession, there is probably an increase in salary. Well, us, as far as school districts, we have not received that increase. And that includes being able to provide a quality salary for our staff. And we've had to find some unique ways to do this. The state's answer has assumed to be TIA. But as I mentioned earlier, you don't treat some of your children better than others. You treat everybody the same or fair, equitably, we would like to say. And in this case, not everybody received that TIA money. Everybody doesn't, the mechanism has not provided itself forward. So again, it goes back to funding, giving us an ability to provide an attractive wage for our teachers to want to get into the profession. You know, when we look at our students and we are giving them so many options that Mr. Surratt spoke about, 4 great resources. If you want to look, and I know there's some pamphlets on your table, evaluate what these school districts in East Texas are providing to your children. I know that Mr. Franklin spoke earlier about coming through Lee at that time, but I'm sure that he was not afforded the opportunities that is provided for in our districts like we're doing right now. So doing a phenomenal job. We can do even better if we're able to provide a high quality. I'm gonna tell you that wage for the people that are educating our future. The state of Texas brags on its economy, right? Got the #1 economy in the world. Well, to continue to have the #1 economy, you have to have the #1 educational system. And I would challenge anybody to put the word public in front of that to have, because we have 5.2 million students that take advantage of public education. And so they are not putting their money where their mouth is. And eventually the goals that they have set for that world-class economy will continue to falter.
Mr. Bitter, blend in some of the rhetoric that's out there that might be appropriate to talk about how we do things here in East Texas, that may be keeping people out of the profession. That's not why, but I'm saying the narrative that's out there keeping teachers away from the profession, but at the same time, how that's not us. The narrative that's out there, the things that other school systems are being accused of doing per se.
Yeah, I think, you know, first you think about that shortage, and so about 42% of educators or teachers, classroom teachers, leave the profession before they make 5 years. So think about that. You're getting pretty close to half are not going to stay longer than 5 years. And there are a ton of educators and very educated people in this room. And when you start thinking about an educator hitting their prime or really getting good at what it is that they're doing, you know, that's beyond 5 years. That's that 5 to 8 year range. You really start to get pretty good. That 8 to 15 range, you're really starting to perfect your craft. And then as a veteran teacher, you're able to do some incredible things pass some of that love for what you're doing on to the younger generation. And I think when we don't have people staying in the profession for a long time, we don't have as many positive ambassadors for our profession as we once had. We had people who would get into the game and they would stay for 40 years. They would work for one school district 40, 45, 50 years. You see their names on buildings around Tyler ISD and other school districts. And I think that, you know, the rhetoric, I think social media, the media, I think political motivations, a lot of that stuff related to the money that we're not receiving and where we would like to see some of those dollars go, it's driving some of that negative rhetoric. And I think that as much as we're asking teachers to do every day and feeling like they are under attack, like our schools are under attack, we take some, you know, obscure situation in the north or way out west where they've got a lot of electoral votes out there on that west coast, and we apply it to something that's happening here in East Texas, and that's just not reality. The people that are serving the students that are in our schools, where you send your kids and grandchildren, where you've worked, the people you see in the grocery store and at church on Sunday, they are different kind of folks than that. And so being able to tell their story, knowing who it is that you're dropping your kids off with every day, those are people you see, they're like-minded folks. They represent the same communities and values of the people that are in this room. And I think that negative rhetoric is very difficult for a lot of people because we feel like, our teachers feel like the very folks that they're working the hardest for are sometimes the ones that are coming after them through some of that negative rhetoric. And so I think in this day and age, without being able to provide that competitive wage for folks, they can go do something else for $50,000 a year. I mean, there's probably a lot of folks that, you know, their side hustle or something that they do from the house is $50,000 a year. And so you think about what we're asking our teachers to do and what we're paying them to do it, and that negative rhetoric definitely has an effect on our teacher shortage.
Yeah, when the gig economy is as attractive as it is, and they can kind of maybe hop from one, I didn't even know what a gig economy is. It was like taking a gig. I thought it had something to do with tech, and I had to go look it up. This was a year or so ago, but it gives you a little bit more flexibility. Maybe you work from home, or maybe you work in a different environment. There's some advantages there, and we've tried to relax some of that. Everything from the way we dress. Heck, I don't even wear boots anymore.
Those are nice. Those are very
Thank you.
nice.
Appreciate it. This is the wife. Anyways, in saying that, I think that that's something that we're having to compete with. The good old days of where y'all used to show up and your teacher had a tie on to the top of their shirt. We're having to compete a little bit with that and having to relax some of the things we want to do. But in essence, every person that chooses to work in a school system does it because it's a pretty dang good profession to raise a family, personally. There's that side of it. It's a great quality of life profession. But at the same time, you get into it because you want to make a difference, because someone made a difference in your life, and you want to make sure you influence and positively impact the community you live in through the teaching of students. Some of us are just nerds that just want to teach history all day and love talking about it, or maybe it's mathematics, or maybe it's chemistry. So it is a niche profession, but we have not done a great job of fending off some of those things. We've kind of just taken it. And it's time to stand up and start talking about that we're not like some of these other school systems across the country, even some in our state, or even other parts of the region that participate and that are chasing some of these other issues that don't have anything to do with teaching kids. One of the things that I cannot stand, my board knows this, they've heard me say this, is I cannot stand the phrase from an educator is, we've got to meet the kids where they're at. I can't stand that. Absolutely not. No one met us where we're at, and we turned into pretty effective citizens for this city, for this county, for this region, for this state, for this country. And I think that we need to recalibrate what we're about when we show up to go to work every day. We're going to love every kid that shows up at our door. There's no doubt about it. We're not going to run anyone off, but we're going to quit chasing some of these things as we go forward. And this group is the first group that needs to hear that. And I'll say this, I've talked to other superintendents, I've talked to other educators. There's a lot of like-minded people throughout our state, not just in East Texas, that are inside of our public education system that operate at the teacher level and at the administration level. Not all of them have boards like we have.
And I'm not here trying to tell them how to go elect their school boards, but some of the school systems that I have to work with and talk with about some of the things, they get pressured from the elected officials there. So I'll just say this, we've got a pretty diverse board ourselves. I know y'all do too. Some of them pull the lever for R, some of them pull the lever for D when it's time for voting. But when they get into that boardroom, it's about student outcomes, it's about student success, it's about the student experience, and they leave their politics at the door. We're very fortunate in East Texas to have school board members that are like that throughout our entire region, or y'all wouldn't elect them, right? In other parts of the region, they have some tremendous challenges going on at their governance level that gets portrayed quite a bit in the media. We're here to convey today that that's not going on in East Texas. So, good deal. We've kind of talked about the trust in the public schools as we wrap this thing up. It's 12:50. We've got about 10 minutes left of the program. Just some final thoughts. We'll start with Mr. Bitter.
Thanks for letting me go first. I'll leave you guys plenty of time. I would just say first, thanks again, always a great event, and appreciate the folks that are in this room, I think, being interested in what it is that we have to say. I think to us, obviously, this is something that we wake up thinking about, we go to sleep thinking about, and it consumes our day, and I think we'd like to be spending a lot of that time on stuff that does have something to do with teaching a kid rather than some of the advocacy efforts that we're being engaged in right now. But I think that is our work, doing that stuff. So the folks inside of our classrooms, when a classroom teacher shuts the door and their 22 kids are sitting there waiting on them, that's where the magic happens. And so everything we're talking about here today is to try to ensure that stuff can happen at a very, very high level, that we continue to reward the people that are in front of our kids every single day with a competitive wage, with a great culture to go to school, to work in, great communities to be a part of. And a lot of that stuff happens as a result of the people that are in this room, the school boards that we serve, and want you to leave here with confidence that when you're dropping your kids off, grandkids, nieces, nephews, whoever that is, your spouses are going to work inside of our school buildings, that they're going to work in a place where you can trust the things that you believe in are going on inside of those buildings, and that you can have confidence that they're in good hands every single day.
Mr. Dean?
Well, I think one of the things that I like to challenge us, this is all of us in the room, is to not just sit on our hands and do nothing. We talked a lot of information that Mr. Bitter spoke about, our goals and desires. We wake up every day trying to how we can make somebody's life better. But we also need you to help us help make someone's life better. Those 5.2 million students that we spoke about, one of them, if you're a business owner, are going to potentially be employed by you. You're going to look for someone to come in, and you want them to have a quality upbringing and education. Dr. Crawford talked about being WASP, right? That's who, sometimes they see us at, because we're always fighting and advocating for our children. We're advocating for our staff, and we're advocating for our community. We're going to ask you to join that fight in advocacy. Help us with those words of encouragement, whether it be a politician or someone who can help make a difference, because to them, you are not WASP. You're concerned citizens, and this is where we need to take the next step collectively to do better as a county, as a state, and as a nation.
WASPs, wrestling, advocating school people. There you go. All right,
you did it
WASP.
right. True, like a true East Texan spoke.
Wrestling. All right. Stan?
Well, first I want to congratulate Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill is doing some amazing things, passed a big bond election, doing some great things with facility. Got a great CTE program over there that's a model for across the state. So very proud of them, proud of Mr. Dean. Mr. Dean started his career at Lindale, so he's got some great training there.
I was educated.
Yeah.
I was educated a little bit in Lindale.
Yeah, Dr. Crawford was an elementary student at Lindale Elementary, first grade, second grade, and second grade again. So.
We're here all week.
And then I want to congratulate Carthage. Great, really outstanding school district. What they've done, how their community supports their bond elections. May have the best facilities in all of East Texas. What they're doing over there, but what they're really that people don't know is how good you are academically. So a great academic school, very competitive, all their programs, great band, everything. So an outstanding school district. And I hear you have a very good football coach over there that be proud of. So
I heard that.
yeah. And then Dr. Crawford, if, just outside looking in, again, we're neighbors of Tyler, what Tyler's done, and everybody can see what y'all have done with the facilities. Amazing job. And so you're serving your kids. Yes. But also, I want you to look at the academics. You had some schools under improvement when Dr. Crawford got here, and now he's taking care of all that, and his staff is taking care of it. So congratulations on that, Dr. Crawford.
We're back on the list, Dan.
But anyway.
But you're right. Not as many.
Anyway, Tyler should be proud of their school district. Dr. Crawford's an amazing leader, and he's a leader among East Texas superintendents. So now there's a little school district just north of y'all. I want to brag on them a little bit. But here's the model. And Lindale, we think we have a good model. And you probably heard about our success at the school district. If you've got a community that fully supports a school district, you're going to find success. Okay, and you can see that in the Lindale community. That community loves that school district. It's the number one thing in Lindale. It's the school district. We've never, ever not passed a bond election in the history of the school system, and we have a bond election on average every 7 years because of our growth. Now, part of our growth is because of this great county and where we live. It's a great place to live. And but anyway, it is a model. Support your school districts. And you're going to have success. Have high expectations for that school district, your kids, your administrators, but fully support them, and you're going to have a great school system. And when you have a great school system, you got a great community. So thanks for allowing me to speak today.
There you go. There's Stan Surratt. Good job. One final question, yes or no. That's it. You get one word answer on this. We know what's coming at us. Legislative session, there's going to be some things passed that's going to happen, and we need to be prepared for that. Are you still going to compete in Carthage ISD when vouchers are passed?
Absolutely.
What about Lindale ISD?
What was the question?
Are y'all still going to compete even though we've got this V word floating around out there?
We're going to kick that tail, I'm going to tell you right now.
What about Chapel Hill ISD?
Absolutely.
Yep, Tyler, yes. Hey, thank y'all for coming today. Let's give our panel a round of applause. We've got James coming up here to close it down. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for coming.
Wow, that was very informative. Thank you, Dr. Crawford, and all the superintendents for the insight and the information, the data. As a taxpayer here, lifelong resident, I can say we are blessed that we do have a community that realizes we need to put students first, and everybody can get behind that, no matter whatever their political stripe may be. I found it was fascinating. We talked about colonoscopies in school. You could just tell your partner, it's not the test, it's the preparation, right? So hopefully you came through that okay. Sorry, couldn't resist. You left it out there. Yeah. So on that note, as we're closing out here, just a few upcoming chamber events I want to talk about. We have our next business after hours on November 21st from 5 to 7 at the East Texas Food Bank. We hope you'll join us for that. The always engaging and informative Dr. Ray Perryman will have his annual Perryman Economic Outlook Summary. That's coming up on the 9th of January at the W.T. Brookshires Conference Center. And then last but certainly not least, the Business Expo 2025 will be February 20th, also at the W.T. Brookshire Conference Center. With that, thank you once again to our title sponsor, Ultra, and we are adjourned.